Hi, it's me, Jacqueline. Welcome to my channel. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and join me at Patreon. Link in the description. Washington. Masumi fell asleep almost as soon as they were on the interstate. So, the first part of the drive was a quiet one. It was about 11 when she woke up. And Mike asked her if she was all right. I'm fine. Just been a little tired lately. They talked about a number of things while driving, the scenery, the weather, etc. About 1 o'clock they were getting hungry and stopped at a nice restaurant just off the interstate. As they were eating, Masumi, in Japanese, asked Mike, "Well, have I what? Thought about it? About what? Living full-time as a girl. You've been thinking about this, haven't you?" "Yes." "How do you feel?" "I think I might like it. Having a girlfriend like Miyuki and a husband like you. 2 problems. 1, my job. They hired Mike, not Miyuki. And 2, would I still be your husband? I hadn't thought about the job. And you will always be my husband, no matter what. I'll tell you what. I also like Miyuki very much, and I'll be her as much as I can." She smiled at him with a twinkle in her eye. The rest of the trip went smoothly. They weren't staying at the brownstone Sunday night, as there wouldn't be any furniture there until Monday, and had made reservations at a local hotel. The hotel was a very nice one, with large rooms and a nice restaurant. They checked in and relaxed for a while. The 8-hour drive had been taxing on both of them, but it appeared more so on Masumi, as she fell asleep almost as soon as she laid down. Mike relaxed for about an hour, then decided he would surprise Masumi. He carefully got out of bed so as not to awake her and became Miyuki. This was the first time that he had done the transformation completely by himself, and he did a great job. Just after he had put on the black wig, he looked over at Masumi, and she was laying on the bed watching him. He turned and looked at her. She smiled and said, "Lover, you did a great job on your makeup." "I couldn't have done better. Thanks. I thought that I'd surprise you. And I also thought that we could go down to dinner as 2 girlfriends. I'd love that." A little while later, 2 very pretty Japanese girls walked into the hotel dining room. And as they were shown to their table, heads turned to watch them. On Monday, they were at the brownstone in Georgetown early, as the moving company was supposed to be there early. The truck pulled up right after they did. It didn't take the movers long to unload everything and put it in the proper rooms. After the movers left, they walked around just seeing how everything fit. They were going to need to purchase some additional furniture, a bigger TV, and rugs. But that would come later. As they were looking around the second floor and came to the second bedroom, that was filled with boxes. Mike said, "Well, we won't need anything in here for a while." Masumi said, "Not for about 8 months. 8 months? Why 8 months? Oh, that's when we'll need some baby furniture in here." "Baby furniture?" You're pregnant." Why didn't you tell me?" "I just did." "When did you find out?" "Just last week. I was really tired and went to the doctor to see what was going on, and found out that the reason I was tired was that I was pregnant." He took her in his arms, kissed her, and just held her for a long time. That night a number of telephone calls were made to Masumi's parents, her sister, and Mike's parents. Everyone was very excited at the news. Over the next couple of weeks, Mike got started on his job, Masumi began working on her doctoral degree, and everything got unpacked. Also, Masumi started showing signs of being pregnant, morning sickness, and mood swings. And Mike, being the kind of guy he was, rolled with the punches and helped her in any way that he could. Mike's job required some extensive training. Most of this was done within the department itself, but one part required him to be gone for a few weeks to a special training center in Virginia. Even though he was close to home, he couldn't come home for that period. But the day he returned, a Friday, Masumi fixed him a great dinner. As Mike had promised, Miyuki was around as much as possible. Most evenings she was there, except if Mike came home late. But the weekends were all Miyuki, from Friday night through Sunday night. The couple had even found a number of lesbian clubs, where they thought that they would be welcome as a couple. One was extremely nice and was only a half a mile from home. On nice evenings they would walk there and take a cab home. One thing that did raise a few eyebrows at the club was when Masumi started showing. But they told everyone that it was through artificial insemination. Towards the end of her pregnancy, Masumi put her doctoral studies on hold and concentrated on getting everything ready for the twins. They had found early on that she was going to have twins, and they told the doctor that they didn't want to know the sexes. Almost 8 months to the day after they had arrived in Washington, Masumi delivered 2 healthy babies, a boy, who they named Samuel or Sam, and a girl, who they named Toshi. 2 days later, Masumi's mother arrived to help her when she came home from the hospital. And Mike's mother was going to be there after Mrs. Matsushita went home. So, Masumi was going to have help for at least 4 weeks. At the end of the first week that Mike's mother was there, she basically told the 2 of them to go out on Saturday night and enjoy themselves, as they wouldn't be able to very often from now on. They jumped at the chance. It was going to be Masumi and Miyuki. And since this was the first time in about 4 weeks that Miyuki had been out, Masumi really worked hard on her makeup. As the 2 girls walked down the stairs, Mrs. Gifford was sitting in the living room, reading and drinking a cup of tea. The babies were sound asleep. She looked up, saw the girls, and said, "My girls, don't you 2 look beautiful? And Miyuki looked beautiful when you went to that party. But tonight, you had better watch out for the boys." "Thank you, Mom," they both said together. "But it's the girls we have to watch out for," Masumi continued with a little smile. "The girls?" "Yes. We go to a lesbian club about a half a mile from here." "A lesbian club?" "Yes. It's a very nice place, good friends, good music, good food and drinks. They accept us as a couple, and we don't have to worry about being hit on by guys. Some of the girls have hit on us, but once we tell them we are a couple, it's cool." "Are you sure it's safe?" "Yes. Very safe. One of the owners is a police officer. And there has never been any trouble." "Well, you 2 have fun. And don't worry about us. The children are sound asleep, the baby monitor is right here, and I have a good book. We'll be home before midnight." "I don't want Masumi getting too tired," Miyuki said. "Don't worry about me, lover. I'll be fine." "See you later, Mom," Miyuki said as they walked out the door. A short walk later, they were at the club. They said hello to the girl collecting the cover charge and walked in to find a fairly full house. 2 girls, Alice and Faye, who they had become friends with, saw them and waved them over to their table. They were greeted with hugs and congratulations on the births. They sat, talked, danced, and generally enjoyed the night. When Miyuki finally looked at her watch, it was after midnight, and she said, "We had better go. We told Mom we would be back before midnight, and it's 20 after. Faye said, "Miyuki, you Mom is cool with this?" "Yes. She's a great person. And she accepts people for who they are." "Wow. If my mom ever found out, she would go ballistic." "You are so lucky. You don't know the half of it," Miyuki said, looking at Masumi. They hailed a cab and were home in just a few minutes. As they walked in, Mike's mom was sound asleep on the couch with the baby monitor right next to her ear. They both smiled at her. Miyuki knelt down and kissed her on the cheek and said quietly, "Mom, we're home." She stirred a little, opened her eyes, and said, "Oh my, I must have fallen asleep. I'm sorry." "Don't worry, Mom. We're the ones that are sorry for being late. Go on up to bed. Did you kids have fun?" "Sure. It's a great group. We danced and talked." "Well, good night. See you in the morning." "Good night, Mom." Masumi and Miyuki sat at the kitchen table and had a cup of tea. Masumi said, "You know, I really do love you. Both of you. And those 2 children are just the icing on the cake." "I know. They sure are special, and so are you. Something we need to figure out in the future is what to tell them about Michelle and Miyuki." "I know. I was thinking about that this evening. Do we just let them learn about them as they grow, or do we hide them?" "You're the psych major." "I know. I'm too close to this. I need to get another opinion." "Will that be a problem?" "No. I don't think so. There is one professor who was there tonight that I think I can talk to without a problem." "She was there tonight?" She didn't see me, or if she did, she didn't recognize me. You're not worried about outing me as a guy to everyone at the club? I think we can work around that by using an imagery couple. And I'll say that they approached me with a question about crossdressing and how to tell children. I'll leave this in you capable hands. Ready for bed? Sure thing, lover. Later that week, Masumi had a chance to broach the subject of crossdressing and children to the professor, Dr. May, that she had mentioned. And she received some very interesting information. One evening, over dinner, she explained to Mike that if it's introduced early, to children that are very well adjusted, that it shouldn't be a problem. That they grow up aware that the father has another side, that it's feminine, and that it's just part of his personality. The only problem comes later, when they have friends, the friends find out and don't understand. It's all in the way the parents handle it. So, they decided to introduce Miyuki to Sam and Toshi slowly over the next year or so. Over their first 2 years of life, the twins became used to seeing Mike and Miyuki. They took to them equally. And some of the first words they said were, Mom, Dad, and Aunt Me. When the twins were just 2, Mike's dad died of a massive heart attack. This had a real devastating impact on him, and his way of coping with it was go deeper into being Miyuki. Masumi began to worry that he wouldn't come out of his depression. They flew home with the twins, and Mike dressed as Miyuki. Mike's sister, Ruth, met them at the airport and was surprised to see Miyuki. As she and Masumi were carrying the twin and Miyuki was getting the luggage, Ruth asked, "Is Mike all right?" "I didn't expect to see Miyuki. He's really taken Dad's death very hard," Masumi said, "and he's using Miyuki as a way to cope. I'm hoping that he'll come out of it soon. Maybe my parents can help." "I hope. If you're worried, then I'm worried. Your family is supposed to arrive tomorrow morning. It will be basically from the airport to the funeral. I just hope their flight isn't late." The funeral went as well as any funeral can. Masumi was able to get Mike back at least for the funeral, and they met Masumi's family at the airport and drove them to the church. Masumi was able to talk to her mother alone about Mike and his depression. And they agreed that it might help if they went back to Washington with Mike and Masumi. Mike became a tour guide, and the more they were out, the more he came out of his depression. To top it off, the twins had really taken to their grandfather and him to them, and it helped Mike seeing them become so close. This was also a real surprise to everyone, especially Mrs. Matsushita, as he wasn't one to like little children or him, but his grandchildren were special to him. By the time the Matsushitas left for Japan, Mike appeared to be back to his old self, though he took a week's vacation after the week of funeral leave. During the week of vacation, Miyuki was around all the time. And on Wednesday, Masumi asked her if she was all right. "Yes, it's going to take me a long time to get over Dad's death. But I don't think I'm as depressed as I was. And being able to be Miyuki really helps. If you need to talk, I'm here, or I know of someone who is good at grief counseling. Honey, I know you're here for me. You're so precious. But I'll be fine. I really hope so. Do you want to go to the club this weekend?" "Not really. But I'd like to invite Alice and Faye over on Friday night." "That sounds like fun. We haven't seen them for weeks." They contacted Alice and Faye and made arrangements for Friday. And Alice asked if they could bring along a special friend. Our 2 girls were more than happy to have a 5th. On Friday, Miyuki became the housekeeper and spent the whole day cleaning. It was decided to allow the twins to stay up and greet the company. Alice and Faye arrived right on time. Masumi and Miyuki answered the door together. And after all the hugs and kisses, Alice introduced their friend, Penny. The 3 visitors made a big fuss over the twins, and they ate it up. Finally, Miyuki said, "All right, you 2 off to bed." "Do we have to, Aunt Me?" they said together. "Tomorrow is Saturday, and if you want to go to the park, it's off to bed. I'll tuck you in." The twins made their way upstairs to their bedroom, with Miyuki right behind them. Faye said, "They're really getting big." "Yes, they don't stay small for long," Masumi said. "Come on in and sit. I'll get us some drinks. What does everyone want?" "Alice and I will take the usual, and Penny is the designated driver, so she'll have a Coke." A few minutes later, Miyuki came back downstairs and joined the others. Talk went from kids to work to the club to Miyuki's dad dying. As she was being very quiet, and to change the subject, Masumi asked Penny about herself. Penny started out with, "Well, to begin with, I'm Alice's husband." Masumi looked at Alice and said, "Alice's husband?" "Yes, she's my husband." "But we thought that I'm a lesbian?" "Not really, I'm bi. Penny is my husband and only straight lover. And Faye is my only lesbian lover." "Wow!" When Penny and I first met, I wasn't sure what I was sexually. His male name is Steve, made me feel very feminine. And when we both knew that it was serious between us, we sat down and had a serious talk. He told me about his feminine side, which I had seen a little of. And I told him about being unsure of my sexuality. He had shown me how a man can love a woman, and he was better than anyone else that I had been with. He cared about my feelings. He told me that I should be sure how I felt before we went any further. And I agreed. We decided that I should try a lesbian encounter, and I started looking through the underground newspapers for someone. I never did find anyone that interested me. So, he suggested that I try one of the bars, and I did. It took me about 3 visits to get up the nerve to approach anyone, and it was Faye. She and I just sat at a table and talked for a long time. She was just like me, not sure of her sexuality. We agreed to meet the next evening at the club and then go to either her place or mine. And the rest is history between her and I. Penny or Steve is another story. Once I figured out that I was bi, I decided to try and bring out Steve's feminine side. To make a long story short, over a year Steve became Penny and now lives full-time as a woman. He had breast implants and cosmetic surgery on his face to make it more feminine. He's still all male where it counts. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access.